My name is Terry Anderson, and at 65 years old, I never expected to be standing in the middle of a baby shower with tears streaming down my face. After losing my husband Frank 5 years ago, the news of my first grandchild felt like a gift from heaven. But my relationship with my daughter-in-law, Amanda, has always been strained, despite my best efforts. When I offered to pay for her baby shower, I thought it might bring us closer. Instead, it led to the most humiliating day of my life. Before I tell you how my own daughter-in-law accused me of ruining her baby shower, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below, and do not forget to subscribe if you want to hear more stories about navigating complicated family dynamics. After Frank passed away from a sudden heart attack, I found myself alone in our family home in Boston, where we had built our lives together. I had retired from teaching third grade at Oakwood Elementary just a year before losing him, which left me with too much quiet time and not enough purpose. Our only son Jason had moved to Chicago for work after college, and at 38 he had finally settled down with Amanda 3 years ago. Their wedding day was beautiful, though I noticed even then how Amanda seemed to keep me at a distance. She was particular about everything from the seating arrangement to who could take photos. I smiled through it all, determined to welcome this new daughter into our small family. Frank had always told me that kindness costs nothing, and I held on to that wisdom tightly. When Jason called me last December with news of the pregnancy, I broke down crying right there on the phone, a grandchild at last. Something beautiful to look forward to, a new chapter opening just when I thought my story was winding down. "Mom, we wanted you to be the first to know," Jason said, his voice filled with excitement. I hadn't heard since he was a boy. "I am so honored, sweetheart. Thank you for thinking of me," I replied, dabbing at my tears while looking at Frank's photo on my nightstand. How I wished he could have shared this moment. I learned during that call that Amanda's parents lived in California and weren't particularly involved in their lives. Her mother Diane was on her third marriage and traveled frequently, while her father had started a new family and rarely made time for Amanda. This knowledge made me even more determined to be present and supportive. The very next day, I called Jason back with an offer. "I would love to host and pay for the baby shower," I told him. "It would mean the world to me to do this for Amanda, and for you." Jason sounded relieved. "That would be amazing, Mom. Amanda was just saying she wasn't sure how we would afford the kind of shower she wants." I had saved carefully through the years and had put aside a considerable amount for Jason's future children. $15,000 seemed like a reasonable budget for a beautiful celebration. When I mentioned this figure to Jason, he whistled in surprise. "Mom, that's incredibly generous. Let me talk to Amanda and get back to you." Amanda called me herself the following evening, which was unusual. Her voice was warm, enthusiastic, even as she thanked me for my offer. "Terry, Jason told me what you suggested. That is so incredibly kind of you. I really appreciate it." Her gratitude seemed genuine, and for the first time since their wedding, I felt a glimmer of real connection between us. We talked for nearly an hour about her vision for the shower. She wanted an elegant garden theme with soft colors and sophisticated touches. No cartoon characters or typical baby decorations. "I trust your taste completely," I assured her. "This is your special day, and I want it to be exactly what you dream of." I hired Sophia Reynolds, a well-regarded party planner in Chicago, to help coordinate everything since I lived in Boston. Sophia came highly recommended and had a portfolio of beautiful events. During our first Zoom meeting with Amanda present, I explained that I would be covering all costs, but wanted Amanda to have creative control. "This is Amanda's celebration, and I want her vision to shine through," I told Sophia. "I am just the fairy godmother, making it happen from behind the scenes." Amanda smiled at this, and I thought we were off to a wonderful start. Sophia proved to be not just professional, but warm and thoughtful. Over the coming weeks, she would become something of an ally to me, a bridge between Amanda's increasingly elaborate requests and the practical matters of budget and planning. As January turned to February, I noticed a shift in Amanda's attitude. What started as appreciative requests began to transform into expectations and then demands. The venue she initially loved was suddenly not exclusive enough. The caterer we had booked needed to be changed to accommodate her new food preferences. The invitations I had spent hours selecting with Sophia were scrapped because Amanda decided the font was too traditional. Each time I took a deep breath and reminded myself that pregnancy could be stressful and emotional. Each time I said yes and adjusted the budget accordingly. My future grandchild's mother deserved a beautiful celebration after all. I flew to Chicago twice for planning meetings, staying at a hotel rather than imposing on Jason and Amanda. During my second visit in March, I brought a small gift, a silver picture frame engraved with the words "Baby's First Photo." "I thought you might like this for the nursery," I said, offering the carefully wrapped package. Amanda unwrapped it and gave a tight smile. "Thank you, but we already ordered a custom frame that matches the nursery theme exactly." I nodded, tucking away the hurt. "Of course, you can use it somewhere else then, or exchange it if you prefer." The frame was later spotted by Sophia in a donation box bound for Goodwill when she visited their apartment to discuss nursery decorations that might be incorporated into the shower theme. Despite these moments, I remained genuinely excited about the baby and the shower. This was my first grandchild, a connection to Frank and our family legacy. I wanted everything to be perfect, not just for Amanda, but for this new life that would carry our family forward. Every check I wrote, every concession I made, felt worth it when I thought about holding my grandchild for the first time. Little did I know that the small slights and dismissals were just the beginning of what was to come. By April, with the baby shower scheduled for early June, what had started as occasional frustrations had evolved into a pattern I could no longer ignore. Amanda had essentially taken over the entire planning process, rendering my input virtually meaningless. Sophia would present options that Amanda and I were supposed to review together, but increasingly Amanda made unilateral decisions before I could even see the choices. Amanda really loved the custom backdrop for the photo area Sophia explained during one of our weekly calls. She went ahead and approved it yesterday when she stopped by my office. "I see," I replied, trying to mask my disappointment. "It would have been nice to see it first, but if she loves it, then I am happy." Sophia paused before adding gently, "She mentioned that since you live so far away, it might be easier if she just makes these smaller decisions directly." The smaller decisions soon included the menu, flowers, and even the guest list. I learned that Amanda had formed a planning committee with 3 of her friends, women I had met briefly during my Chicago visits. Lauren, Kimberly, and Jessica were all in their early 30s like Amanda, and they made little effort to hide their dismissive attitude toward me. During a planning brunch that I had flown in specifically to attend, Lauren spoke over me repeatedly. When I suggested incorporating a display of family baby photos, including some of Jason, as an infant, Kimberly rolled her eyes. "That is so outdated," she said, not bothering to lower her voice. "Nobody does that anymore." Actually, Sophia interjected, "Family photo displays are quite popular again. Many of my clients like honoring the family legacy." Amanda quickly stepped in. "We want something more modern and focused on the future, not the past." I understood the message beneath her words. My history with Jason, the 18 years I had spent raising him, reading to him, nursing him through illnesses, and celebrating his triumphs, was now categorized as irrelevant past. The real blow came in late April, when Jason called to tell me they had gone for the 20-week ultrasound, where they would learn the baby's gender. "It is a boy," he announced, his voice brimming with joy. My heart soared at the news of a grandson, but then sank just as quickly. "That is wonderful news, Jason. I wish I could have been there with you." There was a pause on the line. "Oh, Mom, it was just a quick appointment. Amanda only wanted me there. You know how private she is about medical stuff." He swallowed hard. "Of course I understand." But I did not understand. Not really. In my generation, the 20-week ultrasound was a family celebration. When my sister Margaret had her children, I had been present for those magical moments of seeing the baby on the screen, learning whether it would be a niece or nephew. It hurt to be excluded from this milestone. A week later, while discussing shower favors with Sophia over the phone, she mentioned something that caught me completely off guard. "By the way, we finalized the guest list yesterday. Amanda sent over the final count of 58 people." I frowned, confused. "I did not see the final list. Could you email it to me?" Of course, Sophia replied. I assumed Amanda had shared it with you already. When the list arrived in my inbox an hour later, I scanned it carefully. My sister Margaret's name was there, along with my dear friend Elaine, who had booked flights from Boston to attend. But as I continued reading, a cold realization settled over me. My name was nowhere to be found. I immediately called Sophia. There must be a mistake with the guest list, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I do not see my name on it. There was an uncomfortable silence before Sophia responded. Let me check on that. It might be an oversight since everyone assumes you will be there as the host. Later that day, Sophia called back, her tone carefully neutral. I spoke with Amanda. She said she did not include you because you are the host, not a guest. I have added your name to the final count. I thanked Sophia for her help, but the incident left me deeply unsettled. It seemed increasingly clear that Amanda viewed me merely as the financial backer of her perfect day, not as an important family member to be honored and included. This suspicion was confirmed when Margaret called me the following week after receiving her invitation. Terry, the invitation is beautiful, she said, but I noticed something odd. It says, hosted by Amanda's friends at the bottom. Your name is not mentioned at all. My hands tightened around the phone. What? I assumed you knew, Margaret continued, her voice softening with concern. Is everything all right with you and Amanda? Everything is fine. I lied not wanting to air family problems. It must have been an oversight. After hanging up, I sat in my living room staring at Frank's photograph, wishing desperately for his advice. Frank had always been better at handling difficult conversations. He would have known exactly what to say to Amanda, without causing friction. The final straw came during a conversation with Amanda's college roommate Stephanie at a small dinner I hosted for some of the out-of-town guests who had arrived early. Stephanie mentioned how generous Amanda was to be covering such an expensive event. She told me she wanted everything to be perfect, no matter the cost, Stephanie said, sipping her wine. It cannot be cheap renting out that garden venue and hiring that famous Chicago caterer. I nearly choked on my water. Amanda had been telling people she was paying for the shower. After all the checks I had written, the budget increases I had approved, the additional expenses I had covered without question. The next morning I gathered my courage and called Amanda directly. I wanted to talk to you about the shower, I began carefully. I noticed my name was not included as a host on the invitations. Oh, that, Amanda replied dismissively. The invitation design looked cleaner with just the committee listed. It was an aesthetic choice. I took a deep breath. I also heard something concerning. Stephanie mentioned that you told her you were paying for the shower. There was a pause before Amanda responded, her voice cooler now. I may have let some people assume that. It avoids awkward questions. People can be judgmental about financial arrangements. Amanda, I have been happy to fund this celebration because I love Jason and I already love this baby. But I feel like I am being pushed aside in more ways than one. You are being oversensitive, she replied quickly. This is a stressful time for me, Terry. I need support, not guilt trips. I backed down, immediately apologizing for bringing it up. The last thing I wanted was to cause stress during her pregnancy, but after hanging up, I called my sister Margaret in tears. She is walking all over you, Margaret said firmly after I explained everything. You need to stand up for yourself, Terry. But what about Jason? What about my relationship with my grandson? I asked, voicing my deepest fears. If I cause problems now, Amanda might keep the baby away from me. Do you really want your grandson to grow up seeing his grandmother treated this way? Margaret countered. Sometimes standing up for yourself is the most loving thing you can do for everyone involved. I considered my sister's words carefully in the days that followed. Part of me wanted to withdraw my financial support entirely to cancel the checks and let Amanda figure out how to host the lavish event she had planned. But another part, the part that had spent a lifetime nurturing and giving, could not bear to disappoint Jason or to start my relationship with my grandson in conflict. In the end, I decided to continue funding the shower, but to be more assertive about my involvement. I would not allow myself to be entirely erased from this important family milestone. Little did I know that the worst was yet to come. The week before the shower arrived with a flurry of last-minute changes and escalating demands. I had flown into Chicago 5 days early at Sophia's recommendation to help with final preparations. Instead of staying at a hotel as I had during previous visits, Jason had insisted I stay with them in their spare bedroom, which was filled with unopened baby gifts and shower supplies. It will be easier for planning purposes, he explained over the phone. Plus, Amanda could use the extra help around the house right now. I agreed, hoping this might be a sign of improved relations with Amanda. That hope quickly evaporated upon my arrival. Amanda barely acknowledged me when Jason brought me in from the airport, continuing her phone conversation with Lauren about shower details as if I were invisible. The first morning at their apartment, I offered to make breakfast. I thought I could prepare my blueberry pancakes, I suggested. They were always Jason's favorite. Amanda glanced up from her phone with a tight smile. We are avoiding refined carbs and sugar. There is kale and protein powder in the fridge if you want to make a smoothie. Over the next 3 days, my role became clear. I was there to run errands, assemble favor bags, and help with physical tasks, while having virtually no say in any decisions. Sophia would call with questions Amanda would answer without consulting me, and I would be informed after the fact. 2 days before the shower, Amanda requested a change in the dessert table. The cake is not what I envisioned, she told Sophia during a 3-way call. I want to switch to that French bakery we saw on Instagram, the one with the hand-painted designs. Sophia hesitated. That would be an additional $2,000 for the custom cake. The contract with our current baker is non-refundable at this point. So we will have 2 cakes, Amanda replied with a shrug. The original one can be in the kitchen for extra servings. I want the French one on display. Both women looked at me expectantly. I nodded, reaching for my checkbook. Whatever makes the day special. That evening, I spent 4 hours helping assemble custom favor bags filled with organic baby products, each tied with hand-dyed silk ribbons that had to be precisely the same length. When I suggested a simpler approach to save time, Amanda's friend Kimberly laughed. This is not a backyard barbecue, Terry. Everything needs to be Instagram perfect. My back ached from sitting on the floor. My fingers were sore from tying delicate knots, but I pressed on in silence. This was for my grandson, I reminded myself. For family. The day before the shower brought an unexpected complication. Amanda's mother, Diane, arrived unannounced at the apartment. Surprised, she called out, wheeling a designer suitcase behind her. I finished my Bali trip early and thought I would help with the shower. Amanda was genuinely delighted, rushing to embrace her mother with more enthusiasm than I had ever seen her display. I stepped forward to introduce myself, as we had only met briefly at the wedding. Diane, how lovely to see you again. I am Terry, Jason's mom. Diane Eyre kissed my cheek, her eyes quickly assessing me. Yes, of course. Amanda has told me you have been very involved in the planning. The way she said involved made it sound like an accusation rather than a compliment. Within an hour of her arrival, Diane began criticizing various elements of the shower that I had helped arrange. These centerpieces are a bit outdated, do not, you think, she remarked, examining the beautiful floral arrangements I had spent hours discussing with the florist. And these napkins feel rather basic. Amanda nodded in agreement. I know, Mom. I tried to guide things in a more contemporary direction, but you know how it is. Their eyes met in silent understanding, and I felt like an outsider witnessing a private joke at my expense. Later, as I was arranging gift bags in the guest room that had now become Diane's accommodation, I would move to a hotel. I overheard Amanda talking to her mother in the kitchen. It has been exhausting, Mom. Amanda was saying, her voice low but clear enough to carry. Terry keeps trying to make everything about her traditions and her ideas. She is constantly interfering. You poor thing, Diane sympathized. Some mothers-in-law just cannot let go of control. I stood, frozen gift bag, clutched in my hands, as tears threatened to spill. Interfering. After months of deferring to every wish, paying for every extravagance and receiving barely a thank you, the unfairness of it burned in my chest. That night at the hotel, I discovered another slight when Sophia called to confirm final details. "I just wanted to check about the welcome sign," she said. "The calligrapher finished it today. It reads, 'Welcome to Amanda's baby shower, hosted with love by Lauren, Kimberly, Jessica, and Diane.'" Diane, I questioned my voice catching. She just arrived yesterday. Amanda requested the change this afternoon. Sophia explained discomfort, evident in her voice. She said since her mother is now helping, she should be included. "And I am not included at all," I stated flatly. It wasn't a question. Sophia's silence was answer enough. After a moment, she added gently, "I could speak to the calligrapher about adding your name." "No," I replied, sudden weariness washing over me. "Leave it as it is. It is Amanda's day." By the morning of the shower, I was physically exhausted and emotionally drained. I had developed a tension headache that pounded behind my eyes, and my hands shook slightly as I applied my makeup in the hotel bathroom. For a brief moment, I considered not going at all. I could claim illness, fly back to Boston, and avoid the entire painful affair. But then I thought of my grandson, the tiny life who would someday want to know about his family, his history, his roots. I thought of Jason, who, despite his blind spot regarding Amanda's behavior, was still my beloved son. And I thought of Frank, who had always taught me that family was worth fighting for, even when it was difficult. I put on the pale blue dress I had carefully selected months ago, applied a fresh coat of lipstick, and headed to the garden venue with determination. Whatever happened today, I would face it with dignity. For my grandson, for Jason, for myself. What I did not know then was that the true test of my resolve was still to come. The Rosemont Garden Terrace looked absolutely stunning as I arrived 30 minutes before the official start time. Sophia and her team had transformed the already beautiful space into something magical. Soft white drapes billowed from the pergola, catching the late morning breeze. Round tables adorned with lush centerpieces of baby's breath, blush roses, and delicate blue hydrangeas were arranged across the stone patio. A crystal chandelier, which had cost an extra $800 to hang, sparkled above the gift table. I paused at the entrance, taking in the scene with mixed emotions. Everything was perfect, exactly as I had hoped it would be for Amanda and the baby. Yet I felt like an outsider, at an event I had not only paid for, but had poured my heart into. Sophia spotted me and hurried over, clipboard in hand. Her warm smile was a balm to my frayed nerves. "Terry, you look lovely," she said, giving my arm a gentle squeeze. "Everything is right on schedule. The caterers are setting up now, and the string quartet will begin in about 20 minutes. "It all looks beautiful," I replied sincerely. "You have done an amazing job, Sophia." She lowered her voice, leaning closer. "I want you to know that I appreciate how gracious you have been throughout this process. Not everyone would have been so patient." Her acknowledgement brought unexpected tears to my eyes, which I quickly blinked away. "Thank you for saying that. It means a lot." I offered to help with any last-minute details, but Sophia assured me everything was under control. "You are the grandmother-to-be. You should be enjoying this day, not working." If only it were that simple, I thought. Amanda arrived 15 minutes later, escorted by Jason and surrounded by her planning committee friends. She wore a flowing white maxi dress that accentuated her 7-month baby bump, her hair styled in elaborate braids adorned with tiny, fresh flowers. She looked radiant, and despite everything, my heart swelled with the miracle she carried my grandson. Jason spotted me and waved, guiding Amanda in my direction. I straightened, preparing my warmest smile. "Mom, you are already here," he said, giving me a quick one-armed hug. "The place looks incredible." "It does," Amanda agreed, her eyes surveying the space. She gave me a brief nod but no hug. Everything came together. "You look beautiful, Amanda," I said genuinely. "How are you feeling today?" "Tired," she replied, "and my feet are swelling in these shoes." I told Jason we should have scheduled the shower for the morning when it would be cooler. Before I could respond, Lauren appeared at Amanda's side. "Honey, the photographer wants to get some shots of you by the gift table before everyone arrives." Amanda was whisked away without another word to me. Jason gave an apologetic shrug before following his wife, leaving me standing alone. Over the next half hour, guests began arriving. I positioned myself near the welcome table, greeting people and directing them to the signature mocktail station. Many were Amanda's colleagues and friends whom I had never met. When I introduced myself as Terry, Jason's mother, several responded with surprise. "Oh, I did not realize Jason's family was coming," one woman commented. The confusion in their eyes made it clear. They had no idea I was involved in the event at all. The narrative that Amanda and her friends had created completely erased my role. Margaret arrived with Elaine, their presence instantly bolstering my spirits. My sister took one look at my face and understood the situation without a word being exchanged. "This place is spectacular," she said loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. "You have outdone yourself, Terry." I appreciated her support but gently steered the conversation away from my contributions. The last thing I wanted was to create tension that would detract from the celebration. As the shower got fully underway, I tried my best to blend into the background. The food was exquisite, the music elegant, and the activities well organized. Sophia had arranged a tasteful game where guests wrote down advice for the new parents and a guessing station for the baby's birth date and weight. My gift to Amanda and Jason, a family heirloom cradle that had held both Jason and his father, had been carefully restored and hand-painted. I had spent weeks working with a craftsman to refinish it while preserving the original details. When I carried it in wrapped in simple white paper with a blue silk bow, one of the servers directed me to place it on an overflow table behind the main gift display. "The primary gift table is for close friends and family," she explained clearly, not realizing who I was. I placed my gift on the secondary table without protest, though the symbolism was not lost on me. The shower progressed smoothly, and there were genuinely beautiful moments despite my inner turmoil. Amanda's face as she opened particularly thoughtful gifts, the happiness in Jason's eyes, as he thanked guests for coming, the shared excitement about the new life that would soon join our family. During a lull in the activities, an elderly woman approached me as I stood near the dessert table. She introduced herself as Amanda's grandmother on her father's side. "You must be Terry," she said warmly. "Jason has told me so much about you." We chatted pleasantly for several minutes, and I found myself relaxing for the first time that day. Here was someone who seemed to genuinely want to connect. "This is such a lovely event," she commented. "You must be very proud." "I am," I replied. "Mostly I am just happy for Jason and Amanda and excited to meet my grandson." "From what I hear, you have been incredibly generous with this shower," she continued, lowering her voice slightly. "Not many mothers-in-law would do so much." Her comment caught me off guard. Someone had told her about my financial contribution, though I could not imagine it was Amanda. Before I could respond, Sophia announced it was time for Amanda to give a short speech before cutting the cake. Everyone gathered around as Amanda took center stage beneath the flower-adorned pergola, Jason proudly at her side. "Thank you all so much for coming today." Amanda began, one hand resting on her belly. "This day means everything to us, and we are so grateful to have such amazing friends and family supporting us on this journey." She went on to thank specific people, her friends on the planning committee, her mother, for flying halfway around the world to be there, the colleagues who had organized a group gift of nursery furniture. And finally, she said, her voice thick with emotion, "I want to thank my incredible husband Jason, who has been my rock through this entire pregnancy." That was it. No mention of me whatsoever. No acknowledgement of my contribution, financial or otherwise. It was as if I simply did not exist in her narrative of the day. Jason, to his credit, looked momentarily uncomfortable. Our eyes met across the crowd, and I saw a flash of recognition in his face, an awareness that something was wrong. But he said nothing, did nothing to correct the oversight. After the speech, I quietly excused myself to the restroom, needing a moment alone to compose myself. In the elegant powder room, I splashed cool water on my wrists and took several deep breaths, fighting back tears that threatened to spill. "You will not cry," I told my reflection firmly. "Not today. This is still about the baby, about family." When I returned to the party, the cake cutting was complete, and guests were mingling with plates of the exquisite French confection that had cost an extra $2,000. On impulse, I approached Sophia and asked if I might offer a brief toast. She hesitated, checking her clipboard. It is not on the schedule, but I do not see why not. Let me check with Amanda. I watched as she spoke quietly with Amanda, whose expression tightened visibly. After a moment, Sophia returned. She says it is fine, but to keep it very brief as they want to move on to opening the larger gifts soon. I nodded, suddenly nervous but determined. This would be my one opportunity to publicly acknowledge my grandson and express my joy to claim my place in this family narrative, however small. Sophia clinked a glass to get everyone's attention, then handed me the microphone with an encouraging smile. I took a deep breath and began. I want to thank everyone for coming today to celebrate the upcoming arrival of my first grandchild. I began, my voice steady, despite my nerves. Becoming a grandmother is something I have looked forward to for many years, and I cannot express how much joy it brings me to know that in just a few months, I will be holding my grandson for the first time. I looked over at Jason, who was smiling somewhat tensely. Amanda's expression had grown increasingly rigid. Family is the greatest blessing in life, I continued. I learned that from my late husband Frank, who would have been so proud to see this day. He always said that the love we give to our children comes back to us through our grandchildren. I raised my water glass. So here is to new beginnings to Jason and Amanda, as they embark on the adventure of parenthood, and to my grandson, who is already so deeply loved. May he grow up surrounded by kindness, wisdom, and the warmth of family. The toast was met with polite applause, and several guests raised their glasses in response. I had kept my words brief and heartfelt, careful not to overstep or make the moment about me. But as I handed the microphone back to Sophia, I could feel the chill emanating from Amanda. Her smile had completely disappeared, replaced by a tight-lipped expression I recognized from previous conflicts. As guests returned to their conversations, she whispered something to Jason, and then made a beeline toward me. "Can we talk privately for a moment?" she asked, her voice low but sharp around the edges, in the bride's room. I followed her through the garden to a small building adjacent to the main terrace. It was set up as a preparation space with comfortable seating mirrors and a private bathroom. As soon as the door closed behind us, Amanda turned to face me. "What was that?" she demanded, not bothering to hide her anger. "I am sorry," I replied, genuinely confused. "The toast." "Yes, the toast nobody asked you to give," she snapped. "You made the party about you." I was stunned by the accusation. "Amanda, I simply wanted to express my happiness about the baby. How was that making anything about me?" "My first grandchild," she mimicked. "My grandson, my late husband. It was all about your feelings and your experiences." Her face had flushed with anger, and she paced the small room like a caged animal. "This is my baby shower, my pregnancy, my moment. Do you have any idea how hard I have worked to make this perfect?" The unfairness of her accusation hit me like a physical blow. How hard she had worked, after all the checks I had written, all the times I had deferred to her wishes, all the slights I had endured without complaint. "Amanda, I have tried my best to respect your wishes throughout this entire process," I said, fighting to keep my voice even. "I have only wanted to be included in some small way in this important family moment." "Included," she scoffed. "You've been interfering at every turn, trying to take over with your outdated ideas. My friends have noticed it too." "Interfering," I echoed in disbelief. "By paying for everything without complaint, by flying back and forth from Boston repeatedly to help with planning, by accepting every change and additional expense without question." "There it is," she said, pointing an accusatory finger at me. "The money. I knew you would throw that in my face eventually. If you did not want to help financially, you should have said so instead of using it as leverage." "That is not fair," I protested. "I have never once mentioned the money until this moment, despite being completely excluded from recognition." "You want recognition?" she asked incredulously. "What are you, 5 years old? This is not about you getting a gold star for helping. This is about our child, our family." "Our family," I repeated softly. "I am part of that family too, Amanda." She laughed, a cold sound, devoid of humor. "Let me make something very clear, Terry. Jason and the baby and I are a family. You are extended family at best. You do not get to claim my child as your do-over baby, or your connection to your dead husband." The cruelty of her words left me speechless. I felt as though all the air had been sucked from the room. The door opened behind us, and Jason entered, his expression concerned. "What is going on? People are wondering where you are, Amanda." "Your mother," Amanda said, turning to him with tears now streaming down her face, "decided to hijack my shower with her little speech about becoming a grandmother, as if anyone there cared about her feelings." Jason looked between us, conflict evident on his face. "Mom, was that necessary? You know how emotional Amanda is right now with the hormones." I stared at my son in disbelief. After everything, he was taking her side without even asking for my perspective. "Jason," I said, my voice breaking slightly, "do you have any idea what I have contributed to this shower?" Before he could answer, Amanda cut in. "See? There she goes about the money again. This is exactly what I was telling you about. She thinks because she helped financially, she gets to control everything." "I have not tried to control anything," I protested. "I have given you exactly what you wanted at every turn." "What I wanted," Amanda said, her voice rising, "was a beautiful day celebrating my pregnancy without my mother-in-law making it all about herself." She turned to Jason, tears flowing freely now. "She has ruined everything. This was supposed to be the happiest day, and she has made it all about her." Jason put his arm around his wife protectively. "Mom, I think you should give Amanda some space right now. This stress is not good for the baby." In that moment, something shifted inside me. The fear of losing my connection to my son and future grandson, the worry about causing conflict, the lifetime habit of accommodation, all fell away. In their place rose a clarity I had not felt since Frank died, a certainty about what I needed to do. "No, Jason," I said, my voice suddenly steady. "I will not accept being blamed for ruining a day that I made possible in every way. I will not be erased from my own family, or treated as if my only value is financial." I turned to Amanda, meeting her gaze directly. "I have respected your wishes, deferred to your judgment, and supported your vision without complaint. In return, you have excluded me, belittled me, and now accused me of ruining your shower, because I dared to express joy about my grandchild in a 30-second toast." Amanda's eyes widened at my unexpected backbone. "How dare you speak to me like that? I am carrying your grandchild." "Yes, you are," I acknowledged, "and I have shown that child nothing but love already, including creating this entire event to celebrate his coming. But I will not teach my grandson that it is acceptable to treat people with disrespect and ingratitude." Amanda stormed past me toward the door. "I cannot believe this. You have completely ruined everything." She flung open the door and marched back toward the party, leaving Jason and me alone in the small room. "Mom," he began, his tone placating. "You know how Amanda gets. Just apologize so we can all enjoy the rest of the shower." I looked at my son, really looked at him, seeing not the man he had become but the boy I had raised, the boy who had once understood fairness and gratitude. "No, Jason, I will not apologize for an imagined offense to soothe Amanda's unreasonable anger. If you want to know what is really happening here, I suggest you ask Sophia exactly who has paid for every detail of this $15,000 shower." His eyes widened slightly. "15,000. Plus the additional expenses Amanda added along the way," I confirmed. "Every time she changed her mind or wanted something more extravagant, I said yes, because I wanted her to have a beautiful day. And in return, I have been treated as an unwelcome outsider." Jason ran his hand through his hair, a gesture so familiar it made my heart ache. "I had no idea it was that much. Amanda said you had offered to help with some of the costs, but—" "Help with some of the costs," I echoed. "Jason, I have paid for everything, every single thing, and your wife has been telling people that she paid for it herself." Before he could respond, we heard Amanda's voice from outside, loud and clear across the garden. "Everyone, I am so sorry, but I need a moment. My mother-in-law has just told me that I have ruined the shower by being ungrateful, and I just cannot." Her voice broke into theatrical sobs, clearly audible even from where we stood. Jason rushed out immediately, leaving me alone. When I emerged from the bride's room moments later, a scene was unfolding on the main terrace. Amanda stood surrounded by her friends and mother, dabbing at her tears, while Jason tried to comfort her. Guests watched uncomfortably, some whispering behind their hands. My sister Margaret caught my eye from across the space, her expression a mixture of concern and encouragement. I walked slowly but purposefully toward the center of the garden. As I approached, conversations hushed, and all eyes turned toward me. Amanda looked up, her expression a mixture of triumph and challenge, clearly expecting me to either apologize or slink away in shame. I did neither. The silence that fell over the garden terrace was complete. Even the string quartet had stopped playing, the musicians watching the unfolding drama with barely concealed interest. I felt dozens of eyes on me as I walked toward the center of the gathering, my heart pounding but my resolve firm. Amanda stood with Jason's arm around her shoulders, her mother hovering protectively nearby. The planning committee friends formed a defensive semicircle, their expressions ranging from smugly vindicated to openly hostile. They clearly expected me to crumble under the pressure of public scrutiny. Instead, I straightened my shoulders and spoke in a calm, clear voice that carried across the terrace. I want to apologize to everyone for this unfortunate interruption to what should be a joyful celebration. I began making eye contact with several guests. This is indeed a special day, one that I have been looking forward to for months, not just as a future grandmother, but as the person who conceived, planned, and funded this entire event. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Amanda's eyes widened in alarm. For those who do not know me, I continued, I am Terry Anderson, Jason's mother and the baby's grandmother. While my name may not appear on the invitations or welcome sign, every aspect of this shower, from the venue to the food to the custom cake and party favors, has been provided through my planning and financial support. Amanda stepped forward, her voice tight with barely controlled anger. Terry, this is completely inappropriate. You are embarrassing yourself. No, Amanda, I replied evenly. For the first time in months, I am standing up for myself. I have remained silent as you excluded me from planning meetings, removed my name from the host list, placed my gift on the overflow table, and told your friends that you were paying for this event. I have written checks totaling over $15,000 without complaint or recognition. Gasps and whispers spread through the gathering. Jason looked stunned, his gaze darting between his wife and me, as if seeing the situation clearly for the first time. When I offered a brief toast expressing joy about my future grandson, you accused me of making the event about myself and ruining your day. I continued, addressing Amanda directly now. You told me that Jason, you and the baby are a family, and I am merely extended family at best. Amanda's mother stepped forward. This is hardly the time or place for this discussion. I disagree, I replied calmly. This is precisely the time and place, as I have been publicly accused of ruining an event that would not exist without me. I turned back to the wider group of guests. I have always believed that family relationships should be built on mutual respect and gratitude. Today has shown me that those values are not shared by everyone present. With that, I walked directly to where Sophia stood near the gift table. She watched me approach with a mixture of professional composure and personal concern. From my purse, I removed my checkbook and wrote a final check, which I handed to her. Sophia, thank you for your exceptional work in creating this beautiful event, I said loud enough for nearby guests to hear. This check covers the remaining balance and your full fee, including the bonus we discussed. I want to be clear that everything from this point forward should be canceled under Amanda's name and returned if possible. She is welcome to make her own arrangements for anything she wishes to keep. Sophia accepted the check with a slight nod, her expression professionally neutral, but her eyes conveying understanding. Of course, Mrs. Anderson. I will take care of everything. The shock on Amanda's face quickly transformed into panic as the implications of my words sank in. The carefully curated shower she had been taking credit for was about to disappear, along with my financial backing. Her friends looked equally alarmed, exchanging worried glances. You cannot do that, Amanda exclaimed, rushing toward us with surprising speed for someone 7 months pregnant. The gifts have already been opened. People have traveled to be here. You cannot just cancel everything. I am not canceling the current event, I clarified. The food is paid for, the venue secured for today. I am simply informing Sophia that I will not be covering any remaining expenses or future arrangements under your name. If you wish to maintain the nursery registry or any other aspects moving forward, you are welcome to make your own financial arrangements." Amanda's face crumpled in a mixture of anger and disbelief. "I cannot believe you would embarrass me like this in front of everyone. This is cruel." "No, Amanda," I replied softly. "Cruel was excluding the person who made all this possible. Cruel was telling me I am barely family. Cruel was accusing me of ruining your day for simply expressing love for my grandchild." Jason finally found his voice and approached us. "Mom, please can we discuss this privately? There must be some misunderstanding." "There is no misunderstanding, Jason," I said, turning to my son. "I have made every effort to support you and Amanda in this important time. I have overlooked being excluded, dismissed, and disrespected. But I will not allow myself to be publicly accused of ruining an event that I created out of love for you and your child." Amanda burst into tears, drawing the immediate attention and sympathy of her friends who clustered around her protectively. "I cannot believe she is doing this to me at my own baby shower," she sobbed loudly. "After everything I have been through with this difficult pregnancy." For a moment, I felt a twinge of doubt. Was I overreacting? Was I hurting my son by taking this stand? But then I caught sight of Margaret across the terrace, her expression, one of fierce pride. And I knew I was doing the right thing. Sometimes love meant standing firm rather than giving in. Amanda's mother approached me, her voice low and threatening. "You will regret this, Terry. Amanda will never let you see the baby after this stunt." I met her gaze calmly. "If keeping me from my grandson is the response to me requiring basic respect, then that says everything about the values you have instilled in your daughter. I hope for the baby's sake that cooler heads will prevail once today's drama has passed." I turned to Jason, who looked torn between his wife and his mother. "I love you, Jason. I always have and I always will. But love does not mean accepting disrespect or pretending that unkind behavior is acceptable. When you are ready to talk, really talk about what has been happening, I will be there." With those words, I collected my purse and began making my way toward the exit. Several guests watched in uncomfortable silence, while others pretended to be deeply engaged in conversation to avoid the awkwardness. As I passed Amanda's grandmother, the elderly woman reached out and squeezed my hand briefly, a small gesture of understanding that meant more than she could know. Margaret and Elaine fell into step beside me as I reached the garden gate. "We are coming with you," Margaret said firmly, linking her arm through mine. "No," I replied. "Stay and enjoy the food and music. There is no reason for everyone to leave." "Are you kidding?" Elaine said. "And missed the chance to hear firsthand how you finally stood up to that ungrateful princess. Not a chance." Despite everything, I found myself smiling at my friend's loyalty. At least get some cake to go. It cost $2,000 and is apparently hand-painted by French artisans. As we walked to Margaret's rental car, I heard Amanda's voice calling after me, suddenly conciliatory. "Terry, wait, please come back. I am sure we can work this out." I paused but did not turn around. The time for easy reconciliation had passed. Whatever came next would need to be built on genuine respect, not fear of losing financial support. In the car, as Margaret drove us away from the Rosemont Garden Terrace, my phone began buzzing with messages and calls. Jason, Sophia, even Amanda herself. I switched it to silent and gazed out the window at the Chicago skyline. "Are you all right?" Margaret asked gently. "No," I admitted. "But I think I will be." In the days that followed, the fallout from my stand at the baby shower rippled through the family in ways I could not have anticipated. Some were painful, others surprisingly healing. But in that moment, driving away from the garden with my head held high, I felt something I had not experienced since before Frank died, the quiet strength of self-respect. The weeks following the baby shower were among the most challenging of my life. I returned to Boston the day after the confrontation, my heart heavy with uncertainty about the future of my relationship with Jason and my unborn grandson. My phone was flooded with messages, some supportive and others accusatory. Jason called daily at first, his tone alternating between appealing to my maternal instincts and expressing disappointment in my behavior. Mom Amanda is devastated. She cried all night. The stress is not good for the baby. I understand this is difficult. I told him during one particularly strained conversation, but I need you to understand that my actions came after months of being disrespected and excluded. She did not mean it that way, he insisted. You know how particular Amanda can be about things. She just wanted her vision for the shower to be perfect. Jason, I replied gently, there is a difference between being particular about details and being unkind to people who care about you. I want to be part of your lives, but not at the cost of my self-respect. Amanda sent a text message that read, simply, I hope you are satisfied with ruining what should have been a beautiful day. I did not respond. My sister Margaret stayed with me for a week after returning from Chicago, her presence, a comfort as I navigated the emotional aftermath. You did the right thing, she reassured me when doubt crept in during quiet evenings. It was long overdue. Sophia, the party planner, sent a kind email thanking me for my generosity and expressing regret about how things had unfolded. In my years of planning events, I have rarely encountered someone as patient and accommodating as you were throughout this process, she wrote. I hope that with time, healing can occur in your family. Her words were a balm to my wounded spirit. At least someone had seen and appreciated my efforts. As May turned to June, communication from Jason became less frequent. I learned through Margaret, who remained in contact with my nephew's wife, that Amanda had been placed on modified bed rest due to elevated blood pressure. I sent a care package of homemade freezer meals and a note expressing concern for her health and the baby's well-being, making no mention of our conflict. The package was received, but no acknowledgement came. In my quieter moments, I worried that I had irrevocably damaged my relationship with my son and potentially lost the chance to know my grandson. Had standing up for myself been worth such a high price? On my darkest days, I was not sure. I found unexpected support in a grief group I had joined after Frank's death. When I shared my situation, many others recounted similar experiences with adult children and in-laws. One woman in particular, Judith, became a close friend through our shared understanding of complex family dynamics. You cannot set yourself on fire to keep others warm, she told me over coffee one afternoon. What example would you be setting for your grandson if you allowed yourself to be treated as less than worthy of basic respect? Her question stayed with me, becoming a touchstone when uncertainty crept in. In mid-July, nearly 6 weeks after the shower incident, Jason called with news. Amanda went into labor early. The baby is here. My heart stuttered. Is he all right? Is Amanda all right? They are both fine, Jason assured me. He is small, 5 pounds 7 ounces, but healthy. We named him Michael Thomas. Thomas, after Dad. Tears sprang to my eyes at the unexpected honor of them using Frank's middle name. That is beautiful, Jason. Thank you for letting me know. There was a pause before he continued. Mom, things have been really hard here. Amanda had a difficult delivery, and she is struggling with the recovery and breastfeeding. Her mother came but had to leave after just 3 days because of work. I understand, I said carefully, not wanting to presume anything. We would like to know if you could come help. Just for a few days until we get our footing. I closed my eyes, processing the request. Was this a genuine olive branch, or simply desperation for practical assistance? Either way, my grandson had arrived and they needed support. Of course I will come, I said. Just tell me when. 2 days later, I was on a flight to Chicago, having prepared myself emotionally for whatever awaited me. I had decided that regardless of Amanda's attitude, I would remain calm and focused on helping with the baby. This visit would be about Michael, not about resolving past conflicts. Jason met me at the airport, looking exhausted but happy. Thanks for coming, Mom. It means a lot. When we arrived at their apartment, I braced myself for tension with Amanda. Instead, I found a humbled, overwhelmed new mother sitting on the couch with a tiny bundle in her arms, her eyes rimmed with red from crying. Terry, she acknowledged quietly. Thank you for coming. The next few days established a cautious new normal. I took night shifts with Michael so the new parents could sleep prepared meals and handled laundry and cleaning without commentary or complaint. Amanda and I circled each other warily, but maintained civil interactions, focused on the baby's needs. On my fourth night there, as I sat in the nursery rocking Michael after a feeding, Amanda appeared in the doorway in her robe. She watched us silently for several minutes before speaking. "He looks like Jason did as a baby," she observed softly. "He does," I agreed, stroking Michael's downy head, the same little worry line between his eyebrows when he concentrates. She hesitated before entering the room fully and perching on the ottoman near the rocking chair. "I never thanked you for the meals you sent when I was on bed rest. They were very helpful." "You are welcome," I replied simply. After another lengthy silence, she spoke again, her voice barely above a whisper. "I behaved terribly at the shower, and before that too." I looked up, surprised by the admission. Her eyes were fixed on her hands in her lap. "Pregnancy hormones do not excuse how I treated you," she continued. "My mother never really taught me how to be grateful, I guess. In my family, everything was always a competition about who did more, who sacrificed more." I remained silent, allowing her the space to continue. "When you offered to pay for the shower, part of me was genuinely touched, but another part felt diminished somehow, like I could not provide the kind of celebration I wanted for my own baby." She finally looked up at me. "So I tried to take control of everything to make it seem like it was all my doing. It was wrong and selfish." "Thank you for saying that," I said carefully. "It means a lot to hear you acknowledge how I felt." "Jason has been helping me understand how much I hurt you," she admitted. "And these first weeks with Michael, they have been so much harder than I expected. I cannot imagine doing this without support." She reached out tentatively to touch Michael's tiny hand. "He deserves to know his grandmother. The real you, not the version of you I created in my mind to justify my behavior." It was not a complete apology, but it was a beginning, a crack in the wall that had formed between us. Over the following months, our relationship underwent a gradual transformation. I returned to Boston but visited every few weeks. Amanda's initial surrender, born of exhaustion, evolved into something more genuine as she witnessed my unwavering love for Michael and my consistent respect for her role as his mother. By Michael's 6-month birthday, we had established a new understanding. Not perfect, not always easy, but fundamentally changed from where we had been. During a visit in January, while Jason was traveling for work, Amanda and I had a conversation that felt like the final piece of healing falling into place. "I never properly apologized for the shower," she said, as we sat together watching Michael play on his activity mat. "Not really. I was still making it about my feelings, my reasons." She turned to face me directly. "I am truly sorry, Terry. You were incredibly generous, and I repaid that generosity with disrespect and exclusion. There is no excuse for how I behaved." The apology was simple but profound in its sincerity. I reached over and squeezed her hand. "Thank you. That means a great deal to me." "I have been thinking a lot about family," she continued thoughtfully. "About what kind of example I want to set for Michael. My own family was always so focused on appearances, on who was right rather than what was right." She smiled down at her son. "I want better for him. We all want better for our children than what we experienced ourselves," I observed. "That is the nature of family, always hoping to improve with each generation." Our relationship would never be without its challenges. Amanda and I remained fundamentally different women with different perspectives and priorities. But in standing up for myself that day at the garden terrace, I had paradoxically opened the door to a more authentic connection, one based on mutual respect rather than imposed harmony. The greatest gift came in the form of my relationship with Michael. Freed from the tension of constantly appeasing Amanda, I could be fully present as his grandmother. I cherished our time together, building memories and bonds that would last a lifetime. And in his bright eyes, I sometimes caught glimpses of Frank, a continuation of love across generations. The painful experience of the baby shower had taught me that standing up for yourself does not mean giving up on family. That respect must be earned, not demanded. That healthy boundaries, while initially uncomfortable to establish, ultimately create space for more authentic relationships to flourish. Most importantly, I learned that finding peace does not always come through surrender or compromise. Sometimes it comes through the quiet dignity of valuing yourself enough to require basic decency from others, even those you love most dearly. As Michael grows, I hope to teach him these lessons through example rather than words, to show him that love is strongest when built on a foundation of mutual respect, that kindness matters, but so does courage, and that family at its best is not about perfect harmony, but about growing together through conflict and resolution, becoming better people for having faced our challenges honestly. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself in a family situation? It is never easy, but sometimes it is the most loving thing you can do, both for yourself and for the relationship in the long run. Share your experiences in the comments below, and do not forget to like and subscribe if this story resonated with you. Thank you for listening to my journey from hurt to healing, and remember that respecting yourself is the first step toward creating truly healthy relationships with others.